If I wanted to get ahead with AI in 2026, these are the tools I would focus on. Not because they're the flashiest tools, but because they're the most reliable and they're the ones that I keep coming back to. And I've recently sold my startup to a major AI lab. So I've had the chance to try hundreds of these tools in real workflows. So for each tool, I'm going to show you what it is, what I use it for, and how you can use it in your business or your day-to-day. And even if you only get good at one or two of these, the way you use AI will get dramatically better. But if you understand all seven, you'll have a simple AI stack that you can use to build products, automate work, create content, and stay ahead. The first tool and the most popular one of them right now is Claude Code. So you've probably seen this everywhere because every single person that is in AI or knows of AI has heard of Claude Code. And Claude Code is essentially Anthropic's agentic coding tool. Originally, it was launched as a terminal tool, which meant that you could open it in sort of any environment, and it absolutely exploded in popularity, especially among engineers, because all you had to do was install it through a terminal command, put it into your project, you would give it a prompt, and it would just magically do all the work for you. But what you're seeing now, what I have open, is the Claude app. So Anthropic has a bunch of different products. The Claude app sort of takes three of those products, the chat, which is usually what you see in like the website, Claude Cowork, which is their sort of non-developer focused Claude Code, but it's basically the same thing, and then Claude Code. I don't know why Anthropic has these different tabs. It's kind of confusing. I do feel like there's another tool on the list that does a better job of unifying it, but that's what they went with. Now, if you're looking at just getting started with AI and you don't know where to start or you're not sure what tools to use, Claude Code is great. You can use it, like I said, I use it all the time for a very specific use case, but you can use it for coding and it does a pretty good job. It's relatively simple to use. You just install the app, connect it to a GitHub repository, and let it run. It has a relatively okay-ish UI. I don't think there's anything crazy about it, but it's pretty good. You know, I can go here, I can create a new session, I can choose the project that I want to work on. They do support work trees. I can work on my local. I can also connect it to the internet on Cloud Code. I can give it a task and say to do this on the cloud, which means I can spin up multiple agents and have them run. But overall, it's a pretty solid tool for getting coding done. But then what eventually people found out is that you could use Claude Code for a lot more than just coding. You ended up seeing people making videos on how you could use Claude Code for market research, for ads, for content creation, internal docs. Like you could basically give Claude Code anything as long as it had the right tools, the right skills, and the right connector. Because behind the scenes, it's just running on top of Claude's agentic harness. So what is an agentic harness? I'm oversimplifying here. It's the ability to connect a model to tools and its environment so that it can actually do a bunch of tasks for you. I find that it actually is probably one of the better tools that is useful for when you're doing things that require taste. So for me, I keep coming back to Claude Code for design and front-end components because I can give it very generic prompts. I can say something like, you know, design me a landing page, and it does a pretty good job. Now, personally, I do think there are actually a lot of better tools that sort of edge out Claude, which I'm going to cover after this. Okay, so the next tool, and this is my current favorite tool right now, is Codex. You've probably seen it. It's growing a little bit. It has a lot of hype behind it, and it's for very good reason. So if you saw Claude Code and Cowork and the Claude app, OpenAI saw that and said, we need a competitor. Now, the thing is, Codex is not just for coding, although I do use it mostly for coding. It has a lot of things that it can do actually really well. So right off the bat, the way that you can organize folders and projects is much better than Claude Code. It's very easy to spin up new chats in a thread. So let's say, for example, I wanted to work on a project and I wanted to do something. I could say, do task one, and I could set this task off. I could create a new one here. I could set another task. And so the way they've designed the product is to support multiple parallel agents running at the same time. And they've done a really good job. I can also spin up a chat, and it's extremely intuitive. And I can have all of these running at the same time for me. I can have multiple threads. So let's say I'm creating one task here. I say do example task one. I run it. I can spin up another agent while that one continues to run in the same folder. So I can kind of split my work across multiple tabs to let the different agents run in parallel and actually like not have to worry about sort of getting conflated with which task to do or which task it doesn't have to do. The other part that I really like is the sort of plugins that they offer by default. So they have a whole bunch of plugins and you can do so many things with the plugins they have. You'll probably see there's hundreds of tools right now that let you have an agent use your computer or your browser. I've gotten rid of all of those. I keep coming back to using computer use and browser use because two main reasons. First of all, it's nicely integrated into an app. Secondly, the way that they've structured it and integrated into the app is really nice. So browser use, what they'll do is they will spin up a new browser inside of Codex. That means I can directly, without having to open a new tool, download a new subscription, using one single tool, get the agent to operate a browser for me. So here I said spin up a new browser and find me the F1 race results using the browser use. Now what is this going to do? It's going to read the skill. It's going to spin up a new browser for me inside of Codex and just click around. Okay, great. Now it found me the results. Sweet. Now I literally have a tab open. I can click this, I can open a new tab, all in a single interface. Now watch this. I can just go back to another task and I can have these tasks run at the same time. It's just so easy to have this agentic browser use in the tool. Now, computer use is even more powerful. So computer use lets Codex just control apps on your MacBook. I think it's only for MacBook. Now, this is useful if you want to be able to leverage the like logins and credentials that you have. It's a little bit more powerful than browser use because you don't have to like worry about signing in. You gotta be a little bit more careful because it does have access to all of your accounts. But again, look at all of the tools and capabilities. Previously, you would have to find 10 different products just to use all of this, but OpenAI has decided to take all of that and unify it into a single interface for an agent to work on your behalf. They also have really good models right now. So they have a bunch of different parameters that you can choose for GPT 5.5 from low to medium to high. And then they also have speed. And when I compared it in my like personal tests, I found that it is way faster than Claude Code, like 10 times faster to do the same task. I don't know why Claude Code is just so slow. And interesting note, if you're using Codex and you decide to try it out, they have different sort of reasoning and intelligence. I actually think for most tasks, low is better. I don't know what happened in the training run, but I find that if you want to blow through your limits, go ahead, use high. It's good for some tasks, but most of the time I just put it into low and fast mode and it just can chug along and just do like a bunch of things for me. Now, it also has automations, which is directly integrated inside of the app. So I could spin up a new automation and ask it to do tasks for me. So if I want to say every morning at 6 a.m., go research something for me and create a document, I can set that up. The whole idea is that you just need this one tool. If you can sit down and take the day to learn how to use Codex, it's essentially like learning how to use 100 tools because this is multiple products put into one. Next up is Google Studio. So this is actually, I think, pretty underrated. Not many people know about this. And it's a way for you to use Google models on their website for free. Now, what and why would you use Google? So the Google models are good at two things. One, they have Nano Banana. So you can use Nano Banana for free or for very, very cheap with very high rate limits. There's a lot of creative tools out there that charge you, but you can use it on Google's site directly. In addition, Google's models are natively multimodal. So they work across video, image, and text. Now, this is very useful because if you are doing any sort of marketing or your business or your day-to-day involves some form of looking at videos, you can leverage Google's native multimodal to be able to watch those videos for you and to create scripts, analyze hooks, all of that. I can go into here, I can look at all the models, and they have a lot of models that they don't advertise. So they have the basic text models, Flash, Pro. They have their live models. So this is when you want to have the agent sort of watch your screen and speak to you in real time. You have Nano Banana and Nano Banana Pro. So these are the two like sort of ultra viral models that you can use to generate images of whatever you want. And it's in one place. You don't need to have a subscription to like the 400 different AI creative tools. You can use it in here. You have access to the video models. I can use Veo 3.1, Veo 3.1 Lite. I have audio models, so I can generate music. I have agents as well. They have a deep research agent. This is actually, not many people have used this because it's very new. But if you're looking to do sort of like deep research, long tasks, this is a very good model. I think it's sort of the best model right now for these sorts of tasks. And the interface is actually really easy. I just threw in a video here. I said, please analyze this video. And it summarized it for me, right? It says, and I can say, extract the clips here. And it'll tell me all of the clips that happened to it. And because Google owns YouTube, they have a direct and vertical integration with YouTube. I can take a YouTube link and I can paste it and it will automatically let me chat with that, ask it to extract hooks, to analyze it, to pull any information I want from a video in one place. The only caveat is that it's not like a full-blown app like ChatGPT. There is a little bit of a learning curve, but it is probably one of the more powerful multimodal tools that you can use. Like you can't natively analyze videos or create sort of videos in Codex or Claude Code, but it's sort of more of like a playground. They have a lot of different things that I don't use, like They have this like apps thing, they have a gallery. I mostly just use the playground in the studio, but again, you can use it for sort of anything. They even have like a chat app. Super powerful, really good, especially if you're looking at things where you're analyzing videos or you want to generate music or you want to create videos. Next is the most underrated tool right now, and that is Fal AI. This is where I go when I want to test creative models quickly. Image models, video models, audio, 3D, all of the fast moving creative AI stuff shows up on Fal AI super quickly, like almost within 3 to 4 hours. So it is the spot to go to if you want to test creative models, generate images and video, try models like Kling and VO and Seedance and everything in one spot. And its interface is a little bit difficult to learn, and we'll cover it in a second. But if you can get rid of hundreds of subscriptions to basically every AI creative tool there is. Because guess what? They are all using the same thing under the hood. So say, for example, I want to use Seed Dance 2. I just go here, I type Seed Dance, and I can just go ahead and grab their models here. Again, the interface is a little bit difficult to use sometimes, but once you learn it, it's not too hard. I put in my prompt, I put in what I want, and they have all of the parameters. I can see exactly, I can download the video. They also let me do things like upscale directly. So if I generate an image video, I can ask it to upscale. And then the nice part about Fal AI is that they provide you an API for every model. So let's say I want to build a business or I want to create something where I need to generate AI videos. Previously, I might need to have a subscription to some place that lets me use Kling or something that lets me use Seedance. And maybe those companies don't want to charge me what the models cost. They want to have a premium on top. Well, fortunately for you, Fal, while they do have a minor premium, their business is a lot bigger. So Fal is in the model providing business, which means they can give you API access to all the models at some of the more cheaper sort of prices. And you can use all of them with one subscription. Again, this is credit based actually, so it's even better. You just go here, you load up on your credits, and they charge you per usage. They also have a more unified interface if you're maybe less developer focused. So if you look here, this is a very similar SUI to sort of all these other SaaSes you see. And I can just pick whichever model that I want and I can just run it right here and it'll run the latest model. So I can use GPT-2 image, Nano Banana, Grok image, and I can compare them in one interface. They also provide something called workflows. Now workflows, again, super useful because you can take a bunch of different models and stitch them together. So here they have one where it takes an image and it splits them, scales them, so upscales them, and then gives them back. I can give it sort of a prompt, and then they will take that prompt in this workflow, use Nano Banana to create the image. It'll crop the image, upscale with Seed VR2. Now you don't need to learn how to use this right off the bat, but the reason is it is very powerful and very easy to do a lot with Fal. You could just basically cancel all your other creative tools and just use Fal because they have everything. And you can always turn everything here into an API. I can turn this into an API if I want, and I could sell it. Overall, I enjoy Fal a lot. The number one tool that I kind of use because not only is it cheap, it's reliable, it's fast, they don't have any subscriptions, and I can access all the creative models I want in one spot. There is one more tool that does get an honorary mention, and that is Replicate. So Replicate is very similar to Fal. The only caveat is they don't have as many models, but their API is just as reliable. It's just as fairly priced. Again, you'd have to compare the two to see which one's cheaper. Sometimes Fal is cheaper, sometimes Replicate is cheaper. I did notice that on some instances, like I said, for Seedance, Replicate was cheaper, and then for other models, Fal AI is cheaper. Sometimes they have different rate limits, so maybe you might get rate limited by one, you could go to the other, but overall, it's a pretty good tool to check. This is Claude Design. It is definitely the more interesting tool. So Claude Design is generally used for visual work. So you just basically come into here, you kind of ask it to make prototypes, mock-ups, slides, one-pagers, even design systems, and it just creates it for you. I find this tool very good for prototyping. So again, this is pretty new. I only recently tried it. I think it is actually very good because it creates these wireframes and it lets you directly sort of interface and work with the model more naturally. Whereas when you work with code, I feel like there's no one-to-one mapping of like, here's how something looks, please adjust it. Whereas using Claude Design, it's a lot easier to sort of direct and guide the model to do what I want. So here I was just messing around. I said, make me a skincare app. And it gave me like all of the screens, all of the like interactions. Gave me different options if I wanted to create. So here it gave me an onboarding option A, onboarding option B. It's also really easy to make sort of very specific granular edits. So they have this thing called comment, and I can come into here and I can comment on a specific thing and ask for Claude to make changes. Versus when you're working with code, I feel like it's not as intuitive. It's very hard. You have to like go into the front end, copy it, paste it back to the model, and it's just sort of like it's not a very fluid, natural conversation. Whereas in here, I can just comment on things. I can draw. I can put things here. I can make edits to the directly in line. So if I wanted to change the typography, the color, I could do that all in a single spot. And then what I can do is if I'm happy or I'm done with this, I can export this to PDF, PowerPoint, whatever, or I can just give this to Claude Code. So then that way I can go from design to implementation very, very easily. And so this is one of the newer tools. I haven't used it that much, but it has replaced a lot of other tools I previously had. There were a lot of companies that were sort of doing this like wireframe mockup, but now I just use Claude because I can use it with my Claude Max subscription, which lets me also use Claude Code. So the next one is OpenRouter. So this is a little bit less flashy than the other tools, but it is very powerful because if you're building with AI, it matters a lot. It gives you the ability to access a bunch of different text models through a single API. So you can test a bunch of different models, swap them out, and build your whole app without having to worry or rely on a single provider. Like for example, the other day I wanted to try DeepSeek. Now I didn't feel like going to DeepSeek, creating an account, paying for the subscription just to try out the model. Instead, I could just come to OpenRouter and mess around with it for whatever the tokens cost. I don't need to have a subscription to the other part. And then if I like it, I can very easily integrate it into my product through their API. And that is the benefit here, is that I can integrate any model super easily through one interface. Like for example, say I wanted to use GPT 5.5. All I would have to do is change the model. Super useful if you're a developer or you're maybe a little bit more token conscious and you want to run cheaper models in a single interface. OpenRouter is one of those tools that makes it super easy. And also you don't need a subscription. You just add credits. You don't have to worry about paying $20 a month for a tool that you might only use for $5 to $10 worth of token. Now, the last tool is going to be a bit controversial because it's pretty new, and that is Grok, specifically Grok's voice model. So previously, the number one contender by far was 11 Labs. Now, 11 Labs lets you do a lot of amazing things. They let you do voice cloning, create voices. They have a lot of different voices here. But what I've noticed very recently is that Grok's voice generation sounds a lot more natural, and it lets you do a lot more creative things with their tags. So for example, here, I gave it a whisper tag, and then I said loud cry if you don't subscribe. So I said quietly, do world is ending, and then if you don't subscribe, sort of cry loudly. So let's hear how it sounds.
The world is ending. If you don't subscribe,
Pretty good, right? They also launched voice cloning, and I tested this a bunch of times. Their voice cloning is much better than 11 Labs. Like you gave 11 Labs a voice, you would have to give it a lot, like hours to make it sound similar to the voice that you're trying to clone versus just Grok's.
And how can I help? Okay, let me make sure that I got that right. Is that jane.doe@gmail.com? Is that spelled JANE.DO?
Pretty good, right? They also have a lot of things like, you can look to their voice library, clone, and you can use the Grok API if you want. But in general, very underrated, very new. They've spent a lot of time making it sound like, in my opinion, much better than 11 Labs.